This is not your regular MLB 24 hitting tips video. This video is going to be so much more in deep and going to talk about what creators don't tell you. So this video is going to be broken up into 4 parts. We're going to talk about settings, controller add-ons, approach, and then finally your PCI, your mechanics, and everything else in between. Remember to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button because you guys are not going to get tips like this anywhere else, I promise you. So settings, I don't want to spend a ton of time on settings because a lot of creators, this is the one thing they do actually go over. But we're going to keep it very simple here. Buttons, you need to know when you can press X. X is your only swing you should be taking all the time. Zone hitting phase controls the game all the time. If you use directional or timing or anything like that, the game can decide whenever you swing and miss or whenever you hit a home run. So it is down to the game. Don't want to rely on the game, you want to rely on yourself. You have a PCI anchor. We're setting this at preset. This is actually important. I want you to keep this on for now because I want to talk about it a little bit later. Same with inning. You can leave it at inning. I leave it for inning for myself. PCI anchor dots on. You need to keep this on. Trust me. Once again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but the anchor dots are important. PCI obviously should be on. And then for me, once again, PCI is something that's going to be your own preference. I like circles personally. I like to keep it simple. I also don't mind fishbowl. I also don't mind wedge. Couple other options. Yellow and 50% are my transparency and color. I think usually your yellow or white is typically your 2 colors you go with because it offsets the grass a little bit as well. If we go to camera angles, because this is what's also going to be important, your 2 options. You have strike zone or you have strike zone high. These should be your only 2 options. You should not be choosing between anything else. There's a reason all top players only plan strike zone or strike zone high. Now, before we actually start hitting, approach is a really big thing. So approach is something that you need to know before you even go into the game. Now, something this year is that pinpoint not only is it harder, we have new motions. And we have new motions on a particular pitch that's very popular, and that's the sinker. Now you've switched that sinker out with a cutter, and now the cutter is coming in those counts where they need a strike because it's an easy motion, it's quick, it's repeatable, it seems to be what people are relying on. So in sinker counts, we now get cutters and vice versa. So something that's helped me so far in my approach is that I've been sitting back a lot, especially righty-righty, where we have those sinker-cutter matchups. I've been sitting back a lot and waiting for those cutters because I seemingly seem to get them in those important counts when I need to drive them the most. I also want you to keep in mind your tendency of your hitter, because this is important. If you feel like your hitter has a slower swing, these are typically your Mickey Mantles, your Adam Dunns, you're more prone to getting pitches inside. Where if you have somebody with a fast swing, like we're going to take Mondesi, Charlie Blackmon, Mike Trout, these guys get less inside pitches because people know it's super easy to turn on the ball and hit an easy home run. So we've talked approach so far and we've talked settings, but we haven't talked controller add-ons yet. Now for me, I was on PS for a long time. I was on the PS5, I was on the PS4, but I'd recently switched to Xbox around September. So I've been playing on both consoles now for a while, and I have add-ons and controllers for each console. So on the PlayStation, I recommend just the regular controller, and what I use and what I recommend for most people is to use Galaxy Control Freaks. I suggest the low rise, which is your lower stick. I suggest hitting with that on your left stick. And for me, I used a high rise on pitching stick, but a lot of people don't like a Control Freak on the pitching stick, so don't stress about that one, because that doesn't matter. Now, this is also going to be important. I also recommend green precision rings for PlayStation. These are an extra add-on that help hold the stick tense and doesn't allow you to get to those corners as much because those are the pitches you don't want to be hitting. Now on Xbox, I use the exact same Control Freak layout. I use the low rise hitting stick on the left stick and the high rise on the pitching stick. But the difference is I use a purple precision ring. This is a little bit stiffer, and that's because the Xbox sticks on the controllers are a lot less stiff. They're a lot looser. PS has that natural tension, where Xbox doesn't really have it, so you need a stiffer one to have the same effect that the green does on the PlayStation. Another tidbit of information is that if you are just getting used to precision rings and you've just bought them, running with an outfielder can be tough. So what I suggest is taking your other thumb that you pitch with when it's hit, when the ball is hit, and I suggest pushing with that as well, because that will help push the outfielder so he doesn't jog after the baseball. Okay, so we've now talked settings, we've talked approach, and we've talked controller add-ons. Let's get into actually hitting. So as you can see, I'm using circles, yellow 50%, and this is on Legend. Now I'm practicing against Dane Dunning, and he has sinker cutter, which is your 2 pitches that you typically want to be focusing against this year. Now, first off, we're going to talk about the anchor dots. This is something that I've talked about. I told you I wanted on. The anchor dots are, I'm going to pull it up right now. We're going to see the anchor dots are 9 spots. You can see here, 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 here. What's in common with all these 9 anchor dots? These are your sweet spots. These are exactly the pitches you need to be hitting. So when you're hitting, all you want to do is be focusing on these 9 spots. Anything above these are typically harder pitches to get to, or they're not going to do as much damage when you actually hit the ball. So these are your 9 spots that you want to be hitting, because when you do, you will hit them extremely hard and you'll do the most damage. They're easy to elevate, they're easy to get perfects on. So that's exactly why I like to have the anchor dots on. I always refresh them after every pitch to remind myself that these are the pitches I need to be hitting. Now, second off, people always talk PCI movement before the pitch. Should I be waving it around like this? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? What should I be doing? I want you to do whatever is natural for you, because this is going to build natural timing. Natural timing is extremely important because this is something you don't need to think about. You should never be thinking about what you do pre-pitch, because it should always just come natural, because this is going to be natural for you. PCI timing and, timing and PCI placement go hand in hand. So when, for example, I'm whizzing my PCI around like this, if this is what's comfortable and natural for me, it's going to create natural timing without me even having to think about what pitch is coming or when it's coming. Now, another question I get a lot is, where should I start my PCI? Well, for me, what's comfortable for me, I do 2 different things. Depending on, usually, I'm going to start just a little bit down. I pull myself down a little bit. It allows me to elevate the ball a little bit more and get me cheating towards that lower part of the zone. Now, why cheat towards the lower part of the zone? Well, typically around 70% of pitches online are actually thrown lower in the zone. So this is your sliders, cutters, sinkers. Everything seems to go down in the zone. Now, will you get high pitches? Absolutely. High cutters, high sinkers, high four seams. Occasionally high off speeds if somebody's crazy. But otherwise, a lot of things go down in the zone. So for me, I just want to be in that position where I'm looking for something that's down in the zone or around that middle spot. Now, there you can also start a little bit up. You can start, I want you to do what feels comfortable for you. Just because I do it does not mean that's going to be comfortable for everyone else. Look, I know plenty of people who start their PCI here. I know plenty of people who start their PCI down at the bottom. Look, it's what's comfortable for you. So just because I do it does not mean you have to do it. Now, however, try it, and if you like it, then it works for you. That's perfect. Now, I'm going to get into something here, and this is not a necessity, but what you can do to practice to get better. Custom practice is one. Now, people will always tell you, crank up the sliders, play on legend, whatever. You do not need to do that at all. What I do is find myself focusing on those counts, for example. For example, I put myself in a 2-1 count here. I'm focusing on that cutter because, once again, like I talked about earlier, when people fall behind in that count and need a strike, they're probably going to throw that cutter instead of the sinker now because they feel more comfortable to throw it. So now I find myself looking for that cutter. And then I tell myself, okay, it's a 1-2 count now. I have to protect against the sinker and look for a slider. Oh my god, voice crack. For example, 1-2 count here. Protect against the sinker. Look for that slider. I got a nice cutter to hit. Beautiful. Drive it to the outfield. So for me, I try to put myself in count scenarios as opposed to just sitting here swinging on legend with the sliders turned up and it being pretty much impossible for me at a time. I want to put myself in that real life situation where I'm like, man, what am I looking for here? I'm looking for that sinker to drive. And we get a hang curveball. You know, I'm a little bit early, but swings and misses, weak foul balls, whatever it is, man, they don't matter. At the end of the day, a strike is a strike. If you can find yourself getting comfortable with looking for those certain patterns, and there's certain pitches that your opponent's going to throw you in certain counts, that's going to be your most important, because that goes for everybody, man. I promise you, most people who pitch in this game, they tend to actually fall into the same patterns as everybody else because they see it when they're hitting. So 2-1, if I face a cutter this game, 2-1, I'm probably going to get it from my next opponent too, because we all fall into relatively the same patterns. So look at that. I mean, that's an easy pitch to hit, but once again, I'm looking for these nice little spots right here. These are your sweet spots right in the middle parts of the zone. The middle part of each quadrant is the pitches you want to be focusing on. So once again, get your eyes set there. Anything towards the corners you probably don't want. If you're somebody who's bought precision rings, once again, it's going to restrain your movement. So it's going to stop you from really getting to those corners. It's going to be tough to get out there. So what you have to do is set your sights into the middle. You want those middle parts of the zone. I know this video has been a lot of me talking, but finally I want to end off on one more point. If you start to think about certain things that your eyes are doing, or for example, where your thumb is, this is only going to overcomplicate everything in this game. When you are hitting best in this game, you're not thinking about it. Maybe you're thinking about what the pitcher's going to throw you, but you're not thinking about what your eyes are doing. You're not thinking about what your hands are doing. Everything is going to come as basically, essentially muscle memory. Once again, you have that natural timing, and then you swing through the ball. Everything else, you're just thinking about, okay, so it's a 2-1 count. Let's reverse pitch this a little bit. What am I thinking of? Or what part of the plate do I want to hammer? What part do I need to be quickest to? Because that's going to be really important. Once again, if it's a 2-1 count and you're like, this guy's been throwing me a sinker all game, all I'm going to do is just tighten up and get ready for that sinker, right? But thinking ahead and not thinking about what you're actually doing is pretty important. It sounds stupid and it sounds really lackadaisical, but it's true. It is really true. You just have to simplify everything. Don't think about what you're doing, just think about the next pitch. Think about the pitcher, think about what you're looking for, think about what he's been throwing you all game, and think, how can I hammer this and where can I aim it to be the best hit possible for me. Once again, this video has been a crap ton of just me talking, so make sure you go back, make sure you pause, make sure you go through each section of this video and take what I've broken down and put it into your own game and into your own words and into the best way that's going to comfort you. The support on YouTube has been amazing lately, and I hope this is going to keep it going. If you guys enjoyed this video, once again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'm out. Peace.